No, so guys, this is going to be a master class. It's a series of 4 master class on Python. I will explain in some 2 minutes. Okay. So,
Yes,
everyone,
sure, sir.
thanks a lot for joining our master class. Right. So, this master class is brought to you by Antok, and it's a series of 4 classes where we are trying to uh, introduce you guys to the programming through Python. Right. So, this is an introductory course, right? And our motive for this class will be that after this course on Python, you are well versed with the programming concepts, like how the programming languages are structured, and you can use these classes and skills that you have developed from this class. You should be able to use it for developing further skills, be it either in data analytics, data engineering, or a full Python as a Python developer also, right? So the skills that we're going to develop in this class, they're all very generic skills, generic programming languages. We are not going to focus on very specific Python libraries like pandas, or or libraries which are used in networking or other areas, right? So the way we have divided this program is in the first class. It's more about general introduction about what programming is, how the a programming flow you can maintain, right? Some conditional statements. In the second class, we will go on a very important concept around the functions, right? How the functions are created, why do we use them, how to use them, right? So that will be the focus of our second class. The third class is will be more about the idea around object-oriented programming, right? So object-oriented programming is a very important part of Python, right? That's a very good part of Python. It's a object-oriented program. So how to make use of object-oriented programming, how to work with it, that's what we are going to take up in the third class. So third class will be a little bit more advanced, and in fourth class it will be a little bit more advanced, where we'll be trying to connect the Python with your databases. We'll try to learn how to do the file handling, right? So these 4 classes, they will give you a very good understanding and foundation on Python, and you can use this Python to develop your further skills. Either it is in data analytics, or it's a data engineering, or it's a software development, right? So different fields will open for you, right? Where the because Python is slowly becoming very standard language, right? So with having said that, I would like to welcome Chanti. Hi Chanti, are you here now?
Hey, hi. Yeah, I can able to hear.
Yes, right. So welcome Chanti. Thanks a lot for agreeing to take this class. So Chanti is a Python developer. He is also a very experienced instructor also, and he has been teaching Python as well as Java for some time. So he knows the nitty-gritty of what a fresher, what a person who is starting in the programming has issues with. Right, so he's very experienced person in terms of teaching Python and Java. So please use this program to the fullest. So it is a free master class, but this will also require some effort from your side, right? So I think after every class we will be sharing certain questions also to you, right? And everything else will be explained by Chanti. So Chanti, please, you can take over the class, and yeah, happy learning, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, guys. Let's get started. So before starting the session, so anyone just confirm me you can able to see my screen, right?
No, sir. No.
Yes,
Okay.
I can able to see the screen.
No, sir.
Yeah.
I'm not able to see you.
Okay. Just 1 second. Let me stop the sharing and I'll share you again. Guys, just can you confirm now? Can you able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. Your PowerPoint is visible. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now
Yes, sir. Yes.
Fine. Fine.
Yes.
Yeah, before beginning of the session, let me introduce myself. This is Chanti. I'm working as a Python senior software developer since 6 years, and I have more than 8 years of experience on the training. So today agenda is I'm going to be covered the basic introduction of the Python. And guys, everyone already familiar with the Python is the hot cake in the market compared to other programming languages because of this is coding standards, because of the its vast usage in different technologies like uh, IoT, robotics, data science, blockchain. Okay, this all the domains the Python used as a huge requirement. And coming to what in terms of web development and as well as distributed technologies also, Python used very much. But if you want to learn the coding standards, if you want to learn the coding standards, this sessions will help you a lot. So maybe you already know like how this session is going to be planned. Like the session completely categorized into 4 classes. So we'll go with the level by level. So in the first class, we're going to be covered the basics. So as part of the basic guys, today I'll go with the initial setup of Python. Maybe you already done it, but I'll try to give the overview. And then after that, we'll go with the Python very basic concepts like a variable, identifier, tokens, this all the stuff, data types, operators. And then if the time is permitted for me, then definitely I'll go with the basic and advanced data types in the Python. So this is actually the agenda of today's session. So let's get started, guys. So you can see the second slide, which will talk about the content of the today's session. You can see
Yes,
the
yes.
Python, and then there we can use the Python, the second point that you can focus. And guys, it's installation and how many ways we can use it, and what are the basic Python tokens. Then we have a core, and I mean we have a basic data types and the collection data types in the Python. And how we do input and output operations, like how many operators are available, like what are the control statements we have. That everything is the agenda. This is simply a content of the slide. Next, moving to the next slide. See guys, anyhow that you can see around more than 10 features on the screen, but it's very tough to me to explain all the features now, because if you want to buy a mobile or if you go to a shop, the shopkeeper will explain all the features of the mobile. But I'm sure you can't listen this all, because you already take a review on that mobile. Definitely you'll buy it. Once if you buy it, when you're supposed to use it, then definitely you'll come to know all the features of that mobile one by one. In the same way, anyhow, I have given the list here, but I'll give you one line description. But once we enter into the programming part, each feature will come into the picture to you. Each feature will come into the picture to you, what exactly the feature it is. But let me give you one line description of each feature, guys. On the top, you can see the easy to learn and use. The very basic, the prerequisite with the Python is what? A proper English. Sir, is it a fact that if you know English, can we do the coding? Yes, damn sure, guys, you can do the code, because the Python programming is similar to like guys how you use the statements in English. Suppose if you want to print hello, you need not to know any syntaxes or anything. Just you have to know a word called print. And suppose if you want to take if you want to take some input from the keyboard, then you need not learn any new syntax.
Chandi, you're on mute. Can you just unmute?
Second. Yeah, please admin just carefully observe that sometimes my mic is going to be in mute state automatically. So please check your side, admin. Okay. Yeah, fine. Yeah, guys, this is the first feature, that is what easy to learn and use. And maybe you can see the expressive language. Expressive means we have very less syntaxes compared to the other programming languages like Java and .NET. See, there is a strong reason that why I'm comparing Python with Java and .NET, because they are the only two things are the competitive with the Python. So compared to other languages, Java has, the Python has very less syntaxes. Okay. And next, coming to what people get confused, the one who already have a knowledge in Python, is it compile or interpreted? Guys, so far no programming language has introduced been like as a directly interpreted. Every program has to be compiled, then it has to be interpreted. Maybe you heard somewhere else the Python is directly interpreted, but no, I'll show you the proof also today. It's compiled and as well as interpreted. I'll tell you what compiler will do, what interpreter will do once if I start the first program in Python. And guys, once the Python program gets compiled, you will highlighting you this point, we'll get bytecode, not so the bytecode is converted into the machine understandable format by using interpreter. And whatever the bytecode is generated by the compiler, that can run on any platform. That can run on any platform. That's the reason it is called as cross platform. So platform means the operating system. Suppose I compile the code in Windows, and if I get a bytecode, if I share the bytecode to another system that has the Linux or Mac or with irrespective of operating system, the bytecode can be executed. Now coming to the next feature, free and open source, guys. Python is free. Python is free. I mean, you need not to pay to the Python organization to use the software. But if you see Java and .NET softwares, they are guys licensed ones. You have to pay and you have to use all the features. That's what Python is free. And open source means the Python, the source code is written in Python, that the source code can be reused and modified by the developers. That's what it is, open source, that, and it can be read by anyone, and we can reuse that the source code also. Now get into what the Python. Yeah, this is personal one experience that I can share, because I have a habit to work with other programming languages also, like Java frameworks also. You believe or not, if you want to perform a functionality like email sending, maybe everyone knows the email sending. See, once if you do any payment, right, and once if you do any registration, directly through mail only you will get the acknowledgement, right? So to accomplish that, the mail related functionalities, trust me, other programming languages will have the lot of syntaxes and lot of hectic to write that code. But coming to what in Python, directly we have a library called email. Not only this email, guys, to accomplish any work, we have a ready-made library in a Python. That's what we can say. We have a huge library for a Python. To perform any functionality, there is a library already defined. You believe or not, more than 1 lakh libraries are available in Python. But once if you install Python software in your laptop, I'll show you guys where the libraries are available and what are the basic libraries are there. I'll show you how to see them. Now let's get into the next feature, extensible and embedded. Yeah, this is a unique feature of Python, and that this feature you can't see in any other programming languages. You know the word extensible and embedded. Extensible means Python support other programming language code also. Python supports other programming language code like C, CPP, Java. That source code also you can write in Python and you can execute it. And one more word you can see, embedded. The word embedded means a Python source code can be used by other programming language also. A Python source code can be used by other programming language also. The other reason it is called as embedded. And let's move into the next feature. Yeah, we can do the GUI, not only GUI, the graphical user interfaces. We do web application, we do distributed applications, we do scientific applications. Yeah, there are a lot of programming aspects will be there, the way we can use the Python. And coming to what the next feature, dynamically typed. Other programming language, if you see like Java and .NET or C, CPP, if you want to assign a value to a variable, first the type has to be declared. That's what all the programming languages are statically typed except the Python. Yeah, we have other programming languages like JavaScript, that is also will dynamically type. It means in dynamically type means you need not to declare the type of variable before you assign the value. But you know the beauty, after assigning the value, the type is decided. That's the reason it is called as dynamically typed. Anyhow, I'll show you in the programming part this is. And yeah, I'll go with the one more thing, object oriented. See, Python is not only object oriented, because I have to change this the content here. So Python is simply, I can say, a multi-paradigm programming language. It is not only object oriented, it is structural programming, it is object oriented, it is modular programming language, and it is scripting programming language also. It means all the features the Python can perform. Python can perform. So guys, I hope you clear the one-line description of each feature. As I told you in the beginning, if I start explaining one line, maybe you can't understand much better. But once if I the data types, you will come to know, okay, it is dynamically typed. And once if I start the class 3, then you will come to know, okay, it is object oriented. And once if I show you the first program compilation and execution, you will come to know how it is compile and interpret. Like that, each feature you will come to know in the picture in the next slides. So I hope you got few clarity on Python features, right? Yeah. Guys, if you have any queries, so please keep with you at the end of the session. Definitely, I'll connect with everyone and you can happily ask any kind of queries. Okay. And we'll try to see that all the things at the end of the session. Okay. Yeah, this is about the futures. Now get into the next slide, guys. If you see the next slide, it consists completely, guys, like where we use the, what are the libraries are given by the Python? What are the libraries are given by the Python? See, guys, as I told you, more than 1 lakh of libraries are available, but I have listed only few like IPython, NumPy, Jupyter, right? And Pandas, MATLAB, right? Only few of them I have mentioned here, but more than 1 lakh of libraries are available. I'll show you guys what libraries and how to see the libraries. Okay. And I'll try to discuss, guys, at the end of the session, like in my project, what are libraries I am using for REST API securing, for exception handling, right? And for multi-threading programming, and for data collection, and for data representation. In my project, what libraries personally that what I am using, that everything I'll expose you in the end of the session. Not this one, guys. At the end of the 4th session, I'll try to go with all the libraries that I'm using in my current project. This is everything about the libraries which are used by the Python. Now get into the next slide, guys. You can see the Python is not only used by only the few companies. It is used by, you can see, Google, Amazon, Dropbox, eBay, Quora, Netflix. I have written only the few, but there are a lot of the companies still using the Python. Okay. Yeah, this is I think maybe by seeing the slide, maybe you got more clarity, I think. Guys, let's get into the Python software. Yeah, maybe you can see, guys, the one link that I have given you here. Yeah, there's a one official website is there for the Python, and this is official website is not for only software. This official website like www.python.org, it is not for only the software. There you can get documentation of the Python, and there itself you can get the software of the Python, and there itself you can get the new innovations and new events of the Python. And guys, other than this one, once if you learn the course, yeah, if you are searching a job, yeah, the job portal availability also there in the Python, this organization only. And yeah, like that, there are a lot of the stuff that you can see in this official website. But guys, you go to the directly downloads and you can download the latest version. Guys, it's a old slide it is actually, but I have to change to the current version. The current version, guys, 3.9.6. It is not 3.8.0. Yeah, so far the Python has the 3 versions, the major version. One is a 1.x, 2.x, and a 3.x. The latest version is 3.x, and exactly that is a 3.9.6, the latest version. And once if you download, guys, we have very simple steps to install. So guys, this is the installation window that you can see, and directly you can click on the button install now. Maybe you already done this setup, I think. And on the bottom, guys, you have a one checkbox. Don't forget to do the checkbox. If you do the checkbox only, guys, are Python commands that you can use from the command prompt. Python commands that you can use from the command prompt. Otherwise, you can't use if you not check this checkbox. If you want to do this checkbox later, guys, you have to do the set path separately. Okay, but make sure that check this checkbox to use the Python commands from your command prompt. So guys, this is a very simple steps will be there for the Python software. And guys, once the software installation is done, so maybe you have a doubt what you will get once if it is download and if it is installed in the current system, what you will get. Yeah, guys, you will get the 3 things. One is Python compiler, and the second one is what? Python interpreter, and the third one is Python libraries. I'll show you these 3 things practically. Okay, one is Python compiler, next Python interpreter, then Python libraries. Acha, first let me talk about the Python libraries, guys. Before going to the compiler interpreter, let me go with the libraries. The one who are attending this session first time, if they don't have any programming language skills, even they have a basics of C, then you can understand what is Python library. Maybe you remember, guys, in C language, in C language, there is a one header file called stdio.h. Maybe on the top of every program that you're supposed to add it. So what is the reason you have to add it? Yeah, that is a library actually. The stdio.h is a library which consists the definition for the predefined function like printf, scanf, getC, putC, like that. That's the library. And there's a one more library, let me talk in C language, like math.h. Yeah, the word itself referring that the math.h consists all mathematical functions like sine, cos, seal, floor. Huh? These are guys mathematical functions. In the same way, in Python, we have libraries, and the libraries, guys, we call it as modules. Please note down the statement. In Python, libraries called as modules. Now, guys, I'll show you guys how to get that modules. How do you get that modules? So first, what you do is go to the start button. Guys, in my laptop already the setup is done. So that's what I'm showing you guys how to see the libraries. Go to the start button and directly go to the command prompt. Directly go to the command prompt. This is my command prompt, guys. So from the command prompt, you know what you can type. First, you can check the current version of the Python by typing Python -version version. So there you will get the current version, guys. You can see. I can see 3.9.6. Okay. And if you want to see the Python libraries, that is the modules. Okay. If you want to see the Python libraries or Python modules, first what you need to do is just type Python and just click on enter. You know what you will get, guys? If you type Python and click enter, you will get a shell. You will get a shell. Shells means it will accept a command and perform something and return something to you. It will take the command from there and will perform some operation and will return something to you. You can see, guys, now I'm typing the Python and you can see a shell. You can see this is the 3 greater than, we call it as a shell. And in shell, there's a one command is there, the command directly you can type help of, you can type, guys, modules directly. Yeah, just you can type help of modules in single quotes. And if you click on enter, it will telling you that, Array, can you just wait a moment? I'll give you all the modules. You can see, guys, as I told you, in Python, all the libraries, we call it as modules. And guys, all the modules are having in alphabetical order. Maybe you can see, yeah, the ABC is one of the module. We call it as an abstract base class generally. And A for you can see array. And guys, you can see B for base 64 and C for calendar. You can see, guys. Like that, they're all alphabetical order. And maybe you can see one thing I'll show you, that is what math. Yeah, math is also a module. Math is also a module. Okay. And if you want to know, if you want to know, like mathematical module having how many functions, then guys, in the same shell, what you need to type here is that just you have to type dir of. So simply we are displaying all the functions from the math module. You can see. Just if you type dir of math, guys, you will get all mathematical functions. Guys, you can see all mathematical functions. You can copy them all and put it onto a notepad. And guys, you can see whether you can able to see the function like sine, cos, math or not. All the functions are available from this math module. Guys, you can see there are a lot of modules are available. And one of them I'll show you. Yeah, maybe you can see, guys, the email. As I told you in the beginning, to perform the email functionality, you need not to do more work, guys. Directly there's a module they given. The module name is email. Like that, there are plenty of modules they given, guys. Yeah, this is about, guys, the installation. Once if you've done the installation, you will get the libraries. Not only libraries, guys. Now I'm going to be show you Python program compilation and as well as interpretation process. I won't take much time, guys. Within 2 minutes that I'll try to complete it. You can see. So first of all, what you do is, yeah, you can create a folder. Yeah, you can create a folder anyway. Once the install is done, you can create a folder anyway. So guys, I'm creating a folder. The folder name is Python apps. First, what you do is you can create a folder like this, Python apps. And guys, open a notepad file. Open a notepad file and you can write a piece of Python code. Guys, I'm writing a piece of Python code. You can see like a comma b is equal to, let me give you like a 2 comma 10. Okay. And directly, guys, I'm doing here print a double star b. Maybe few people already know the a double star b means it's a power b, that is nothing but 2 power 10. Now, after writing the code, guys, directly you can save that file. You can see I'm saving this file. I'm giving the file name, guys. Now the file name is I'm giving 1.py. Yeah, you can see in my console, guys, in my current folder, you can see a Python file with the name 1.py. Now, guys, I'm showing you quickly how to compile and how to interpret. And guys, this is a proof for Python is compiled and as well as interpreted. So let me show you guys practically. This is, you can see Now let's open the command prompt. Yeah, just open the command prompt. So the first command that you have to do compilation. The first command that you have to do compilation. So guys, see how I am doing the compilation. Python and the current module name is 1, and I'm compiling by using a command called the pycompile. There's a command is there. The command name is py_compile. Guys, this is a Python compiler command. Python compiler command. This command will take your 1.py. Just now you prepared now. This command, the Python compiler, it will take your 1.py and will generate the bytecode. Guys, you can see that bytecode also you can see. Yeah, guys, my compilation is done. Once the compilation is done, you will get a one folder with the name like py_pycatch. Just open that, and there, guys, you can see my file name is 1. Observe, guys, my file name is 1, and the current version is 3.9. And maybe you can see the current Python version, that is, you can see CPython. This is, you know, guys, we have different Python compiler flavors. Like we have a CPython, JPython, IronPython, and PyPy. But mostly we use the CPython compiler only. Guys, this is a CPython compiler because it is written in C language. This Python compiler is written in C language. And guys, if you open this code, yeah, you can also open this code, guys. Directly you can open with the notepad. Yeah, you can open with the notepad and you can see some code. Yeah, this code is not human readable and as well as not machine readable. It is not human readable, it is not machine readable, and it is clearly bytecode, guys. To run the bytecode, now we have to take the help of the interpreters. That is what Python interpreter will came into the picture now. So see, guys, how I'm interpreting this code. So first you have to enter into the directory. So for that purpose, you can use a command cd. Okay, cd space in that folder that you have to enter. Now, guys, you can use a Python interpreter command, that is what Python, and space, guys, you can give the file name. This is your file name. PYC stands for Python compiled file. And guys, you know, when you do this programming by using IDLEs and IDEs, this compilation process is not visible to everyone. That's the reason all people will think that Python is interpreted programming language. But this is a proof that there is a PYC file is also created, that is Python compiled file. And now this file that I am running by using interpreter, that's the reason, guys, I'm seeing the output 2 port 10, that is what 1024. So I hope everyone clear. The Python is a compiler and as well as an interpreted programming language. So guys, if you are okay with this one, then I'm moving to the, yeah, this is a slide that you can see, guys, is Python is compiler based or interpreter based. So the answer is, guys, it's a first compile, then generate the bytecode, and then it is given to the Python interpreter. That is what PVM generally we call it as. That is Python virtual machine, and the Python virtual machine will run that bytecode. That's the reason that you can see the output on the console. So strictly we can say Python is compiled and as well as interpreted based programming language. So I hope you clear. And then coming to what, how to use this Python. I mean, how many ways you can use a Python software? I'll try to cover now. How many ways you can use a Python software? See, guys, now maybe the one who are attending this session, maybe you are a learner or a developer. The two modes I'm explaining, you know, maybe you are a learner or a developer. If you are a learner, then either you can go with the interactive mode or a batch mode. If you are a developer, definitely you have to use IDEs. Yeah, that is the next slide. We'll talk about that one. You can see a Python software can be used by two people. There can be a learners or can be a developers. Yeah, learner can do the programming in interactive mode. Yeah, generally we call it as interactive mode, guys, the REPL. Generally we call it as a REPL, the interactive mode, like read, eval, print loop. So you know what's happening there? Yeah, just now showing you the shell now. Yeah, in the shell, we have to pass statement by statement to the interpreter. In interactive mode, we have to send statement by statement to the Python interpreter and we can see the output. But coming to it in the bash mode, that is ideally stands for integrated development learning environment. In this mode, you know what we do? Actually, it's my bad. Here, the content is missing. Yeah, actually the content is, you know, guys, in the batch mode, we have to group these 3 lines in a file, and the file name you can see, guys, add.py, and the whole file that we have to send to the interpreter at a time. The whole file we have to send to the interpreter at a time. Okay, and that interpreter will execute that code. Now the question is, sir, as a learner, in what case I can use the interactive mode, or in which case I can use a batch mode? Yeah, guys, I'll give you that clarity now. Suppose you have a piece of code. Piece of code means you can take less than five example, and that code you want to test whether the code is working or not. You want to test that, you don't want to use that code in future, but you have a piece of code you want to test whether the code is working or not. Then guys, always we will go to the interactive mode, and that code you can't use in the future. Now let's get into the batch mode, guys. Yeah, suppose if you have a piece of code, that code you want to use in future programming also, then guys, you can write in a file and you can save that file, and this file can be used in our other Python programming also. That's the reason it is called as a batch mode. So I hope you're clear when to use interactive and when to use a batch mode as a learner. But guys, learner first have to habituate with this interactive mode and batch mode. But developers always recommended to use the IDEs. IDE stands for integrated development environment. Guys, this is not interpreted. Sorry, it's my bad. So it is clearly integrated development environment. Okay, and you know what is integrated? Generally, we know the maths meaning of integration, like summing or grouping. Yeah, guys, you can see I have written some 5 environments to here, like writing code, saving code, debug code, running code, and output of the code. That all the environments we can see on a single window. It means on a single window, you can write code, you can save the code, you can debug, you can run, and you can output. Guys, other than this 5, you can also have a feature like you can add the third-party libraries in an easy way. You can add the third-party libraries in an easy way. And guys, also it provides the auto intelligence. Once if I start the coding in IDEs, guys, you will come to know what is auto intelligence. Okay, so guys, this is how many ways we can use the Python software, like we can use for learners and as well as the developers. Anyhow, guys, I'll show you this all now one by one. You can see first I'm opening the interactive mode. To open the interactive mode, guys, go to the start button and just type Python. You'll get the current version. You can see, guys, this is a shell and we call it interactive mode. Guys, you can see A equal to 10 I have written, B equal to 20 I have written. Okay, and then guys, directly I'm doing A plus B. You can see the output is 30. In interactive mode, guys, even you need not use a print statement. As I told you, it's a REPL now. REPL stands for read eval print loop. Print loop. REPL means it will also print also. You can see 30 will be printed. So guys, this is how to use the interactive mode. Now guys, I'm showing you how to use the batch mode. For the batch mode, guys, go to the start button and directly you can type the IDLE directly. You can see IDLE. Okay, and yeah, okay, guys, you can see here there is some window that you can see. From that window that you can create a file, you can save the file. You can see, go to the file option. You have an option new file. And there you can write the code. You can see, guys, I'm writing some A equal to 10 and B equal to, let's take 56. Do C is equal to A plus B. And then, guys, at the end, you can print of C. Yeah, now we can save this file. Guys, I'm saving this file with some 1.py. And directly go to the option run, and you have an option, guys, run module. A module is nothing but the current Python file. Yeah, you can run it, guys. You can see the output is 66. So guys, this is how to use the interactive mode and how to use the batch mode. And guys, from day one itself, that is from today itself, we'll start writing the code from the IDE. And guys, on the bottom, I have given you the most popular IDEs used for the Python. That is PyCharm. You can see, guys, Anaconda, IntelliJ. Anyhow, guys, already have done the setup of PyCharm in my laptop. You can see. This is a PyCharm window, guys. This is a PyCharm window. If you still not install, guys, directly what you do is go to this website, the JetBrains, or you may type directly, guys, a PyCharm download. Yeah, it is given by a company called JetBrains. Go to this website, guys, official website, JetBrains. And guys, there you can select the there can be 2 modes that you can see. One is a community and the second is professional. So better you can go with the community. Don't go with the professional. It will only 30 days that you can use it. So better you can go to the community and you can download. And before download, guys, make sure that the Python has to be there in your laptop. Otherwise, the PyCharm won't work. You can see, guys, there are 2 modes, professional and community. Directly you can go with the download, and you can download, guys. And after installation, guys, this is the window that you can see. This is the window that you can see. Guys, already I created a project here. So the steps is very simple. Go to the file and you have the option new project, and there you can give the project name. And guys, already I have given the project name is PyCharm apps. And if you want to create a Python file, guys, once the project creation is done, if you want to create a folder, for a separate file, see guys, I created one folder. The folder name is class1 because today is the class1. No, that's what I created a directory. If you want to create a directory, guys, so right click on your project, you have an option new and directory. Directly you can select this directory and you can give the directory name is class1. Guys, from the class1 folder, now I am creating the Python file that you can see, that is what test1.py. So what you do is to create this Python file, right click on your folder, that is directory, new, and you have an option Python file. So in the Python file, you can give just file name and just click on enter. And this is, guys, you can see the file name. You can see the test1.py. Guys, from here itself, you can write your code. Yeah, now let me write a very simple line. That is what print in single quote. Just I'm writing hi. Once your coding completed, then the simple steps to run the program is right click on the window. You have an option, guys, run directly. You can click on the run, and on the bottom you can see the output. So guys, I'll show you all the programs from through this PyCharm only. So this is, guys, how to use the PyCharm, the learners and developer modes. So I hope you guys, you clear these things, right? Yeah, okay then. Now let's get started. The very basics of Python, the tokens. One of the first token that I want to introduce you guys, that is keywords. Every language has some set of keywords. Every language has some set of keywords. Let's talk about English. If I ask you, do you know English? Maybe all you guys said definitely yes. But you don't know English. Because if I open Oxford Dictionary, if I open now Oxford Dictionary, and if I ask you a word, you have to tell its meaning and you have to tell its situation to use. Then just justify yourself, guys. How many of you know all the words, meanings, and the situation to use in from Oxford? The same way, if you take C or C++ or Java, .NET or Python, every language has its own keywords. That keyword meaning is already defined by the compilers. You can see, guys, Python keywords are simply we call it as reserved words. Reserved means they have already defined by a particular meaning. Guys, I'll show you one keyword. You can see the if is a keyword in Python to test the condition. If is a keyword, and import is a keyword in Python to import the modules. Lambda is a keyword used to prepare the anonymous functions. Like that, each keyword is already intended for a particular purpose, and that keywords you are not supposed to use it for any variable names or function names or any class names. And these keywords will prepare the structure of the Python program. And guys, Python keywords are case sensitive. Case sensitive means, guys, like how they appear in the same way that you have to use it. Guys, this keywords list can be vary from version to version, and the current version is 3.9.6 and having 36 keywords, guys. Maybe tomorrow if the new release is there like 3.9.10, maybe they may add one more keyword also. So you have to learn that keyword also. And guys, among the 36, the first three keywords has the first letter is capital letter. You can see true, none, false. You can see, guys, I already highlighted you. And remaining all, guys, you can see single word keywords only. Single word keywords only. And suppose, sir, tomorrow there's a new version as installed. Then how do I know like how many keywords are there or not? Yeah, for that purpose, what you do is just open the command prompt. And go to the Python shell like this. And guys, there you can type the command like import keyword. And guys, then next you can type keyword dot KW list, and just click on enter. You will see, guys, the list of the keyword which is available in the current version. So this is a small description about, guys, the keywords. Around 36 keywords are there. Guys, at the end of the 4 sessions, guys, come to this slide and check whether you know all 36 keywords or not. If you don't know any keyword, then you have to think that you don't know Python. Okay, so you have to be confirm this window at the end of this session, guys. Each keyword I'll explain you based on the situation. I hope you clear what is keyword, I think. And next, guys, let's get into the rest of the things. Let's get into the rest of the things. Before going to the rest of things, guys, through programming, I'll show you something. You can see through programming, I'll show you something. Suppose if you want to perform an operation, guys, the operation, let's take a area of, suppose if you want to perform an operation called, guys, the operation is area of circle that you want to calculate. Everyone knows the formula, that is pi r square. Everyone knows the formula is pi r square. So how do we implement in the Python? The same program, how do you implement in the program? So definitely what you do, first, maybe you can declare the radius. Maybe I can declare the radius like 5.6. Yes, and directly, guys, like area of circle is equal to, maybe you can write, guys, 3.14 times radius times radius, and directly you can print the area of circle. See, this is actually the formula pi r square. Pi means we know 3.14 and radius times radius. And guys, just run the code and you can see area of circle. Suppose, see guys, for all the next topics, this is a very basic program. This is very basic program. Suppose there are 5, the students will come to an interview, and if I give the same program, okay, same program, and the only one job I need to give them. Is this program if written by 5 people? Definitely no. Each developer, I mean, each student will write the code in a different way. But guys, always you have to write the code by making all possibilities. You know, how do we write that code by all possibilities? Guys, you have to check, first of all, if the radius is less than 0 or not. If it is less than 0, then definitely you can drop a message that is what area cannot be calculated. Area cannot be calculated. Yeah, guys, this is what in all cases that you have to write it. If it is less than 0, definitely we can't calculate the radius. That is, area cannot be calculated. And in the else part itself, in the else case itself, guys, you can calculate the area of circle like this, and guys, you can print the result. So this is a very basic program that I have given everyone. Observe, this is a very basic program I have given. And in this program, there's a 3.14 is there. No, actually the 3.14 is a already available constant in Python in a module called math. So the first step, you have to import that math like this. And instead of writing 3.14 like a hard coding, you're not supposed to hard code these values. Directly you can write, guys, math.py like this. You can write it. Yeah, let's run the code and you can test this program. Yeah, guys, you can see the answer anyhow now you are getting. Suppose if you are giving a minus 5.6, general scenario, if you observe, there is no chance that the radius can be negatives. You can see, guys, you will get the output area cannot be calculated. So guys, always you have to write the code in this way. But guys, now I'll introduce you my topic. Actually, the topic is, you can see, now today's radius is 5.6. Tomorrow, definitely, a big circle if I take, then definitely the radius can be vary. It means radius values can be varies. Radius values can be varies. And if the radius is changed, definitely this area circle is also will be changed. So this we call it as we call it as variables. We call it as variables. So in the above program, radius and as well as this area of circle both are variables because the values keep on changing. And in the above program, one more thing I want to highlight you, the pi. So definitely the math.py, the pi value should not be changed. And definitely we have to make it should not be changed, no? So then in that case, that guys, we can consider as a constant. Generally we can call it as a constant. So I hope you clear what is variable and what is a constant. And guys, other than this variable and constant, you have to know a few more things, guys. You can see the 5.6 there. Yeah, what is this 5.6? Yeah, simply we can say it's a value. And 0 is there. Yeah, it is also a value. 0, 0. It is a value. And area cannot be calculated. You written in single quotes. Yeah, this is also a value. Guys, these all we call it as literals. We call it as literal. A literal is nothing but a value. A literal is nothing but a value. Now coming to what? We are assigning 5.6 literal to the radius. Okay, we are assigning 5.6 literal to the radius. And this radius is a user defined name. A radius is a user defined name. And area of circle is also a user defined name. User means developer defining its name. Developer defining its name. Okay, and that can hold some values. That can hold some values. That's the reason, guys, this area of circle and the radius, we call it as them identifiers. We call it as them identifiers. Now, guys, the next slides, I'll try to discuss with these things only. What is identifier and the rules to prepare an identifier? What is the literal? How to, what are the literals are available? And what is constant? How to create a constant? What is variable? And how do we declare a variable? That everything, guys, I'll show in the next slides. This is just introduction. Now we'll see each slide, guys. Each concept we'll see. The first slide, guys, you can see identifiers. As I just now told you, identifier is just nothing but it's a given, it's a just name. Identifier is just, it is a name which is given to a class or a function or a variable or a constant. And guys, there are some rules will be there. I highlighted the rules, guys. Please, you can focus. The rules are, if you are preparing an identifier, you have to keep in mind that the identifier should be prepared by only the three combinations. One is alphabets can be a lower or upper, and digits, that is 0 to 9, and the last one is underscore. Only underscore is permitted. And you are not supposed to use other than these three. Alphabets, digits, and underscore. You are not supposed to use other than these three. And the rule 2, if you see, identifier should not start with a digit, but maybe ends with a digit. And guys, identifier should not be a keyword. Just now shown the 30 keywords keyword, no. And in the global is one of the keyword. You are not supposed to declare, you are not supposed to use a keyword as identifier. And you're not supposed to use any special symbol except the underscore. Only underscore is only the permitted. And guys, identifier, the length can be anything. You can give the large names also, no problem. You can give the large names also, no problem. Guys, these are the very basic rules to declare an identifier. You have to be kept in mind while you are writing a class name, or while you are writing a function name, or while you are writing a variable name or a constant name. I hope this slide will make you sense what is identifier and what are the rules. Now, guys, let's get into the literals. Just now told you literal is nothing but a value. Literal is nothing but a value. Guys, I'll show you that is with the program. You can see. Let's take one more Python file. The file name I have taken test2.py. Suppose if I assign a is equal to 10. Suppose if I assign a equal to 10. Yes, 10 is a integer literal. Integer literal. And if I assign b is equal to something 3.6, it is a float literal. Now c is equal to, if I write like a 3 plus like 4j, then it is a complex literal. Maybe you are already aware with this, I think. Integer literal, float literal, and complex literal. Guys, they're all under numbers. All are number related literals, guys. Number related literals. Now get into, guys, non-numbers. Yeah, it can be the first one. Let me take it as, guys, the string. Let me take it as a string. Yeah, guys, string can be declared in different ways. A string can be declared in different ways. You may declare in single quotes like this. Single quotes. One single quotes. Or you may declare in 3 single quotes like this. You may declare in 3 single quotes. Or, guys, you may also declare in 1 double quotes, or you may declare in 3 double quotes also. So these are the 4 possibility space will be there to declare the string literals. String literal. Four possibility ways to declare the string literal, guys. Now get into the next category of the literals. That is what, guys, the none. Yeah, none is a kind of literal. Suppose if you write e is equal to something none, means e haven't assigned any value. E hasn't not initialized with any value. That is the meaning of non literal. None literal. So other than this, guys, we have a Boolean related literals also. Yeah, let me take, guys, the Boolean literal, like let's take f is equal to. Yeah, you can also declare, guys, either a true or you can declare a false. These are, guys, the Boolean literals, true or false. They are, guys, we call it as a Boolean literal. Now, other than these things, we have some collection related literals. We have, other than this, guys, we have some collection related literals. Let's take, guys, there's a variable I'm taking G. Suppose collection means, guys, more than one element like this. Collection means more than one element like this. Guys, this more than one element, we can declare inside the square braces like this. We can declare in like this. And if this is a data declared in square braces, then it is called as a list literal. List literal. And if the same thing that if we declare in parenthesis, then it is called as tuple literal. And the same thing that if we declare in a curly braces, then it is called as dictionary literal. Dictionary literal. And sorry, not dictionary, guys, it's a set literal. And suppose if you are declaring the data in key comma value pair, like one apple, one is a key and apple is a value, and 2 is a key and banana is a one more value. Like that, if you represent data key comma value pair, then it is called as a dictionary literal. So guys, this is a just literal overview. Let me show you in the slide what are the literals are available. You can see, guys, a literal is a raw data which is given to either variable or a constant. Whether it is given to a variable or a constant. And as I told you, guys, how numeric literals like integer, float, complex, just now shown you. And guys, we have a string literals that can be declared in single quotes or double quotes, or it can be triple quotes or triple single quotes or triple double quotes, just now shown you. And now, guys, you can see the Boolean literals like a true. And next that you can see, guys, special literal that is we called as none. And the last one is, guys, you can see collection literals like it can be a list or tuple or set or a dictionary. So I hope you clear, guys, the literal categorization. Yes, just can you confirm in the chat, guys? Are you following so far? Guys, are you clear so far? Can you confirm in the chat? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, fine.
Yes.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, so guys, let's get into the next thing. Yeah, just now we covered what is identifier and what is a literal. Now let's talk about a variable and a constant. Yeah, people will think that there is no possibility to prepare a constant in Python, but we have a possibility. That is also, I'll show you guys the possibility. First, let's talk about the variables. You can see a variable means the value will keep on change. You can see a variable is a container that holds the data that can be changed later. Yeah, you can see, guys, the two examples I have given. A equal to 10. If you print A, the 10 will be printed. But the second thing you can see, guys, A equal to 10. If you print A, 10 will be printed. Now I'm changing A equal to 20. Now the print A means that 20 value printed. It means the A values keep on changing. The A values keep on changing. But my intention is I don't want to change a variable value. I don't want to change a variable value. Then, guys, you have to go with the concept called constants. Directly, you can't create the constant, guys. There is no keywords are there. Like if you have a knowledge on C, like in C, we use constant keyword. And if you have a knowledge in Java, guys, we use the final keyword. And if you have a knowledge on .NET, we use a sealed keyword. But in Python, we don't have a keyword, but instead of the keyword, we have a module to create. We have a module to create a collection. The name is what? Named tuple. Yeah, guys, that I will show in the next slide. So guys, in this slide, you can see the first thing I have given you the definition. A constant is a container that holds the information which cannot be changed later. Guys, what you do is just type this program as it is and you can test. You can test in your lab, you will get constant. Guys, if you see, here I highlighted some constant. You can see the gravity, no one will change. It's always 9.8. And pi value, no one can change. The value is 3.1415. And guys, like that, I have taken some variables ABC with the respective values 11, 22, and 33. Yeah, if you want to create the constant, guys, this is the process. Yeah, the step one, you have to import the name tuple module. And the next step, guys, you have to create the constants. I mean, you have to declare like what constants variable you required. Second step, guys, you have to declare the constants variable names list. And the third step, guys, you have to give the values like A equal to 11, B equal to 22, C equal to 33. Like that, you have to give the values. And guys, the next step that you can use them directly. And you know, you can try, guys. Now, if you type all constant dot A, you will get 11. And try to assign a new value. Try to assign a new value. Like all constant dot A is equal to 100. All constants dot A is equal to 100. Try to assign a new value. Compiler will give the left and right to you. That is impossible. So that is, guys, the best way to prepare the constant. You may try in your laptop, guys. You can take the snap of this slide. Anyhow, I think this all the slides will share to you after completion of the session itself. So guys, this is how to prepare a constant, and the previous slide, guys, will talk about how to create a variable. So I hope you clear, guys, what is identify, what is variable, and how to create a constant. Just you can check this is in your lappy. You'll get the conclusion, guys, how to creating the constants. Now, guys, let's move into the next concept, the very important for your complete core Python, that is data types. Yeah, your complete core Python will talk about the two things, guys, the major things. One is data type, the second is what functions. Anyhow, the session one that we are planning to cover the data types. Yeah, let's move on, guys. What the generally data types will do. Generally, Python is dynamically typed. It means you need not to declare the type. You need not to declare the but you have a possibility to know the it's a type. You have a possibility to know its type, guys, among the Python shell from the command prompt. Suppose if you assign a is equal to 10, okay, suppose if you assign a equal to 10, you have a flexibility to know it's a type. You can see you have a flexibility to it's a type. And guys, one more possibility is also is there. You can declare it's a type also like this. Don't think that, guys, we don't have the data types in Python. We have data types also. Guys, here I haven't declared with any type. But here, guys, I declared it the type. A:int means, yeah, I am declaring integer is a int is a type. So guys, you may also check the type is a. That is what you can see, guys, both are integers. So guys, this is the first clarity that you need to get it. Python, you can declare the type like this, and you can ignore the type also, no problem. But based on the value, the type is decided. See what value that you are assigning 10 now, then it will become integers. Suppose if you are assigning the float value, like if you assign like a equals 3.6, then if you check the type of a, guys, it will become the float. It will become the float. And one more point I will highlight you. Maybe if you don't have any programming knowledge on object oriented, then it's a tough to you. But I'll try to give you one statement. Just you can note down the statement. In Python, every variable, every function, every variable, every function is referred to class and object. Every class, every variable, and every function is referred to a class and as well as an object. Now, guys, if you write m is equal to some value, some 89, okay, 89 is an integer object. Yeah, you can see, guys, m is an integer object from an integer class. Now, m is a object from the integer class. M is an object from integer class. Suppose if I write n is equal to 3.6. Now, n is an object of float class. N is an object of float class. Guys, please, you can note down this statement. Once if I start the object-oriented programming, you will come to know what is class and object. Don't panic. Just you have to understand that every variable is an object. M is an object of integer class. N is an object of, guys, you can see the float class. And guys, you can see, let me take one more variable, some O. Now, if I give something like apple, then guys, O is an object of string class. So the proof is, guys, just you can type type of M, and just you can check it, guys. It is integer object. M is a integer object and belongs to class, belongs to integer class, you can see. And one more proof also I'll show you. There is a one more function is there, guys. The function name is ID. It will tell that object address. It will tell that object address. If you use ID of M, it will show you the identity, guys. That is what it is, the address of this object. M address it is showing, guys. So the two function I introduced here, one is the type and the second is what? ID. So I want to conclude, guys, the two things. One is other programming languages are dynamically typed. Sorry, statically typed, C, CPP, Java, .NET. But Python has two flavors. You can declare the type like this, or you can ignore the type also. When you are ignoring, guys, if you give any value, based on the value, type is decided. If you want to know its type, then you have to use the type function. And one more point, guys, just now highlighted you, each variable in Python, each variable is treated as an object of a particular class. Yeah, this is the ID function will tell you the address of that object. ID is a function which tells the address of an object. So guys, this is about the data types introduction part. And guys, generally, we can have two types of data types. Generally, we have two types of data types. I will go with the data types. You can see. Suppose in your family there are 3 members are there. Suppose in your family there are 3 members are there, and you want to declare the 3 members' ages. Then definitely you have to take 3 variables like age 1, age 2, age 3, and we can declare the ages like your father age and your mother age and your age. Like this you can give it. This is, guys, you can see this variables holding single value. Age 1 is a variable which holding the single value, and age 2 also variables holding the single value. But there is a one more approach is there. It means the same ages like 40, 50, 45 and 20, that all you can store in a single value or single variable also. So this is the conclusion I want to give you guys. These are, we call it as basic data types. This we call a basic data type. It means basic data types variables can store single value. Basic data type variables can store single value, whereas collection data types, guys, can store multiple values in a single variable. That's the reason, guys, this category you can see. This is the category you can see because basic data types, and right side, guys, you can see the collection data. Under the basic data type, guys, you can see int, float, bool, and the complex and string. You can see, okay, int, float, bool, complex and string. Right side, if you see, guys, collection data types, under you can see list, tuple, set, and dictionary, and array. The last one is. Anyhow, these are the separate chapters, guys. I'll discuss one after another. And along with this 5 data types, guys, we have ready-made functions also. Along with 5 basic data types, we have ready-made functions. You can see what are the ready-made functions. Suppose I have a value a is equal to 5.6. Now everyone knows it is a float value. Sir, I want to get this value in integer. Then directly there is a function is there. That function name is int, and there you can pass the argument as a. Yeah, you can see, guys, it returning integer value. Right now you can see, guys, you can check the type of a also. Yeah, now it's if you check the type of a, guys, definitely it will become the float. But you converted, but you haven't stored it. No. Now, guys, let me convert and let me store. You can see now I'm converting. A is equal to int of a. Now, guys, I converted, and you can check its type. Type will become integer. Like that, guys, we have a function like int to convert the data into integer format. There is a function float to convert the data into float format. There is a function bool to convert the data into Boolean format. There is a function complex to convert the data into complex, and there is a function string to convert the data into the string. Now, suppose the same data, if you want to convert into a string, yeah, you can also use the same thing as like a is equal to, there is a function string, and of a you can pass, and you can also check its type. Its type will become string. So, guys, this is generally we called as typecasting functions. There are totally 5 typecasting related functions are there. One is integer, and the next one is a float, and next one is bool, and next one is, guys, the complex, and the last one is, guys, string. These are the 5 functions we use based on the situation to do the typecasting. Generally, we call it as the 5 functions under the typecasting functions only. Okay, the data types are treated as functions here. I hope you clear, guys, the introduction part of the data types. I think so. Guys, can you give me the acknowledgement in the chat? Are you clear the data types introduction part? On which basis they categorized?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Yeah. So, guys, let's move to the next content like input and the output. Yeah, they're very simple function. I'll go with some examples here. You can see, guys. Let me go with the Python, and there I can explain you better. If you see, guys, let's take one more example, and there I'll try to complete this. Let's take test 3. Yeah, the topic is actually input and output function. Generally, guys, if you see a is equal to 10, and let's take b is equal to 20, and directly you do c equal to a plus b, and just if you do the print C guys, then definitely you can see the answer of the result. You can see the answer of result, that is what 10 plus 20, that is what 30. You know guys, in this program what you are doing, you are using a print function. You are using a print function to write result onto the console screen. To write result onto the console screen. So generally we use a print function to write data into the console screen. You can see guys, this is we call it generally a console screen. To write something onto the console screen, we use a print. But guys, if you see the 10 and 20, suppose there is a situation I want to take this 10 and 20 from the console. I want to read this 10 and 20 from the console. Guys, then you can use a function called input. Then you can use a function called input. And in the both cases, guys, we have to use a function called input. You know what input will do? Here, anyhow, we have to deliver a prompt message. That is what enter first value. Yeah, I'm prompting the message like this. Enter the first value. And the same thing is you can prompt like this. You can see enter the second value. And guys, see if I run this code now, input function will display this message to you, or enter your first value. Then definitely what do you do guys? You are ready to enter some value, and that value directly stored into the E. And the same thing guys, second time it will ask you enter your second value, that will also store into the B. Next guys, you are doing the C equal to A plus B, and finally the result will be printed. You can see guys, I'm just running this code. Just I'm running this code. You can see. Yeah, it will asking you guys, enter a value, enter the first value. Now I'm entering 100. Okay, now second time it is asking, enter the second value, guys, I'm entering 200. You know, the expected output is guys 300, like how you did the code. But you know what happened here? The input function always return the data in string format. Input function always return the data in string format. And if you do the string, if you do the plus operation between the strings, if we use a plus operator in between the strings, you know what happens guys, it will become a concatenation. It will become a concatenation. Just you can run and you can check guys, the output is now, you can check the output, it will be concatenated. It will become, so you can see guys, 100 and 200, they will come side by side. They will come side by side, that you can see. Okay, so then how do I take this data in integer format? So yeah, simply guys, as I told you, always the input function will take the data in a string format. No, and just now I've covered 5 functions to you. Just now I covered the 5 functions to you, the typecasting functions. Among them guys, you can use a function called int that convert the string into integer. And here also guys, you can use a function int to convert the string data into string format to the integer format. Sir, I need in float. Yeah, then you can write it as like this float. Okay, like that guys, based on the value that you can declare your type. Now let's run and check this out. Now guys, I'm giving 100. Now again I'm giving the 200. Now you can see the output is 300. So guys, this is what, how to use the input function. Input function always return the data in string format. String format. If you want to get, if you want to get the data in your required format, you can use any one of the 5 typecasting functions. 4 typecasting functions, that is int, float, bool, and complex. Anyhow, that you are getting the data in string format. So I hope you clear guys how to use the input function. That is what input. Now it's a time to know. It's a time to know how to use the print function and how many ways we can use the print function. Yeah, guys, that is I'll show you in another example. You can see that I'll show you in another example. You can see how many ways we can use the print function. See guys, first I am printing in single quotes, I am printing the A. Okay. And then guys, I'm printing the B. Or else guys, for more clarity, you know what I'll do? I'll take 1, 2, 3, then you can understand in a better way. Yeah. So guys, observe I'm printing 1, 2, and 3. So as expected, if I run this code, 1, 2, 3 will printed line by line. 1, 2, 3 will printed line by line. You can see guys, 1, 2, 3 will printed line by line. But I want to print in a single line. How? I want to print in a single line. How? You know guys, the by default behavior of the print function is it always printed the data it always print the data, and after immediate printing the data, the cursor will send to the next line. The cursor will send to the next line. But I want to stop the cursor in the same line only. I want to stop the cursor in the same line. Then at the end, you can use a attribute called a keyword as argument. That is what end is equal to. We can specify with any special character, or you can leave some empty also like this. Now, if I write this end, like this, then guys, you know what happened? Without end, guys, I'll repeating you. If you not use the end, always cursor send to the next line. If I use the end, cursor will not go to the next line, guys. The cursor will be there on the same line. You can see. That is what 1, 2, 3 you can see. Right. So this is, guys, when to use the end. I hope you got it. When to use the end. Okay. And let me take you guys one more requirement here. Suppose I am printing 1, 2, 3, 4. Suppose observe that, guys. Here observe. I am printing 1, 2, 3, 4. If I run the code, you can see the output, guys. In the output, you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4 will be printed in the same line, because the third print function you are ending with the space only. You are ending with the space only. Suppose in between if you write the print. Guys, if you not write anything, then control directly go to the next line. You can see. Control directly go to the next line. You can see, guys, the control is moving to the next line, that you can see, and how you are printing the output, you can see. And here one more thing I want to highlight you. Here. In print, I'm passing 5 arguments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm passing 5 arguments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and by comma separation. You know, guys, the default separation of print function is space. Default separation for the print statement is what, guys? Space. You can see the output is 1 space 2, 2 space 3, 3 space 4, like that. But if you want to change that separation, then, guys, you can use an attribute called separation. And there, guys, you can declare like how you want to separate. You want to separate by comma, or you want to separate by star, or you want to separate by new line, like that. You can mention anything. Now, in this context, guys, I want to separate it by comma, and just you can run it, and you can see this output. The output you can see, guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Guys, I want to just you need to know when to use end and when to use sep. If you don't use end, the cursor always go to the next line, and if you won't use the separator, always the separation will be the space. And here you can customize. I hope you clear these things also, I think. Now, guys, let me use the C language format specifier in a print function. Suppose if you take A is equal to 10. 10 is a decimal value, we know. Suppose if you want to print that value by using C language format specifier, maybe you remember %d. Yeah, guys, I am writing here like this. You can see A value is equal to, I have written something %d. Now, you know, guys, at the end, what you can write? You can write %l, that variable name here directly, you can write it. %l directly. It means in the place of %d, this value will be replaced. You can see it. Yeah, you can see A value is 10. A value is 10. Suppose, guys, if you have a B value like 3.6, and suppose if you have a value like C is equal, let's take apple. Yeah, just guys, 1 second. Yeah, fine. Suppose you want to print this the float and string values, then maybe you got it. That is what. Let me write B value is. Yeah, you can see, guys, B value is. You can use %f for the floating. Next, guys, you can write C value is. C values you may use %s. And guys, here you can use the variable like %b. Yeah, you can write %b, and you can write, guys, comma C, like that. You can use it. I think how to use here %b for to printing the first value. Yeah, you can write B, and also, guys, you can write comma C, like this. You can write it. Yeah, guys, you can see now. Just run it, and you can see it. the D for a decimal, repeating to D for a decimal, and F for float, and S for string. So this is, guys, how to use input and output function in Python. I hope you clear, guys, how to use the input function. That is what to read the data from the console. And this is, guys, how many ways we can use the print statement with the end and the separators, end and separator, and how to use the C language format specifiers, how to use the C language format specifier also. So, guys, this is the next slides that want to talk about the input and output function. And there is some question that I have made, you can see how to use end and how to use separator argument and how to use the C language format specifier. And guys, there's a one more function format that I'll try to cover in the strings. That I'll try to cover in the strings, not now. Okay. So this is, guys, how to use the input and output function. Now, guys, the next thing is what? Operators. Yeah, I'll try to cover the operators, guys, now. So before going to the operators, so please, you can see something I was highlighted here, C is equal to A plus B. Something I have written here, C is equal to A plus B. Just focus here. And in A, C equal to A plus B, guys, A, B, C are we call it as operands. A, B, C are we call it as operands. Whereas equal and plus we call it as operators. Generally, operators are used between the operands to perform a specific operation. You can see the definition I have given. Operators are used between the operands to perform a specific operation. So, guys, generally we have totally 6 categorizations like assignment, arithmetic, relational, logical, bitwise, and special. So, guys, in a program that I'll try to cover them, you can see. In a program I'll try to cover them, you can see operators. So let's get into the one more Python file that I'll try to cover them all. Guys, whatever the topic now I'm discussing, for each topic, there is some worksheet also there, workbook sheet. I prepared some technical programs that help you a lot to crack the interviews and as well as to learn the high level things like frameworks or data science. Okay, that worksheets will help you a lot. For topic based technical programs I'll prepare, I'll share you after completion of this session. Okay. Now let's get started, guys, the operators. So get into the first type of operators, guys, that is what assignment. Generally, the assignment operator, everyone knows, that is what assigning the value. Assigning the value. Now, guys, I'm showing you how many ways we can assign the values. How many ways that we can assign the values. You can see now. The first categorization that you can see, first categorization, the first scenario that you can see, A is equal to 10. This is single variable assigning. And next category you can see, guys, B is equal to, C is equal to, D is equal to 20. That is multi-variable assigning. It means in this case, BCD values will become 20. Now, guys, one more category like E comma F is equal to, let me take 30 comma 40. Yeah, this is also one more category. One more way to use a equal operator. This is single variable assigning, multi-variable assigning a same values with the same value. And the third one you can see, guys, we are assigning 2 variables with 2 different values, you can see. And other than this one, guys, you know, you can do the swapping in a simple way. You can see, let me do, guys, E comma F is equal to, if I write F comma E, you know, it's a simple swapping operation. Now E will become 40 and the F will become 30. This is a kind of swapping generally we call it as. Guys, other than this one, suppose if you do like A is equal to A plus 90. Suppose if you do A equal to A plus 90. Now, generally, if you print the A value, you can see, guys, the answer is 100, right? The answer is 100, right? You can see, guys, the answer is 100. The answer is 100. You know, this statement also can be written as, A plus equal to 90. In that case also, it will give the same answer, guys, that is what 100. Now, guys, just observe, see, so far this is, now the answer is 100. Now the answer is 100. Now, if I do, guys, A minus is equal to, let's take a 40. Now, if I print the A, can anyone guess the answer, guys? Can anyone guess this answer? A minus equal to 40?
60.
Yes.
30.
Yes, it is a 60. Very good. Now, if I do, guys, like A, like a multiplied is equal to, let's take a 3. And if I print the A value, can anyone guess the answer?
180.
180.
Yes. Perfect. It is 180. Good. Now, if I do, guys, a division is equal to, let's take it as, guys, let's take 50. Now, can anyone guess that answer now?
2.0.
Yes, correct.
3.6.
Yeah, it will getting guys. Yeah, definitely. As you said, guys, you will get 3.6. Yeah, I'm sure. So this is guys how to use the equal operator, and generally we call it as them shorthand. Generally we call it as them shorthand. If you use a equal operator with any operator, equal with any operator, we call it as this is shorthand. So a plus equal to 90 is clearly equal to 2. A is equal to a plus 90. Like that, the guys remaining operation will be evaluated. You want to test this code, guys, you can test it now. You can see it. Guys, you can see. As expected that you are getting that output. So guys, this is about assignment. So I think hope you got what is assignment. Now guys, let's move to the next programming, that is what related to the arithmetic operators. Arithmetic. Now let me take two values, guys, like a comma b is equal to, let's take 10 comma 3, and let me do the arithmetic operators like a plus b. We have several operators. Let's copy and paste them. Let's take this is minus, that is subtraction. This is a star, that is multiplication, and double star, nothing but guys, it's a power. And this is a division, and guys, this is a double division, and you have a one more operator, that is what a mod also will be there. A mod operator is also there. You can see, guys, there's operator. The operator is what mod, that you can see. Okay, so guys, I'll try. Maybe you can guess few of them directly. So what is A double star B directly? Tell me, guys.
1000.
1000. Yeah. What is A by B? What you will get? A division by B.
3.333.
Yeah, guys, you will get coefficient. You will get coefficient with fractional values.
Yeah.
Okay, coefficient with fractional. And coming to it, if you do double division, guys, again you will get the coefficient, but without the fractions. There is only one thing you have to differentiate, guys, the division and single division. But you know, guys, in the last case, guys, that is when you do the mod, always, guys, you will get the remainder. You will get a remainder. So you have to keep it in mind. Can anyone guess what is the last answer? A mod B.
1.
Reminder operator.
Yes, remainder will be 1. Yes, correct. You can check, guys, that output. Yeah, you can see as expected. This is A power B, 1000. And this is a division B with fractional, and a double division coefficient you will get, but without fractional. And the last one, guys, you will get the mod. You can see that is what remainder. So this is about, guys, the arithmetic operators. Now let's get into the relational. Let's get into the relational operators. Among the relational, yeah, you have to concentrate on, guys, operator like less than and greater than all. Maybe I can take the same the variable values to assign them. Yeah, a comma b, and guys, we have operators like a less than b. Maybe you remember this if you have other programming knowledge, or you may have a greater than b. Guys, this relational operator generally use it for comparison. Generally use it for comparison. I'll show you guys. I mean, I'll go with the scenarios like where we can use this operators. You can see less than or equal, and you may use a not equal, and you may use a double equal. Okay, you may use double equal to like this. So guys, these are relational operator. Guys, tell me, a less than b, true or false? A less than b.
False.
Yes, false. A greater than b.
True.
Yes. Greater than or equal to b.
True, sir.
True.
Yes. A less than or equal to b.
False.
False.
Yeah. A not equal to b.
True.
A double equal to b.
False.
False.
So guys, if I do a equal to b and if I print the a, what is the answer?
3.
Yes. You have to know here the differentiate between the double equal and single equal. Double equal to for comparison, whereas single equal to for, guys, assigning the value. So you have to keep it in this mind. But guys, I'll show you them where you use a relational operator. When you transferring or when you do a pay operation through your Paytm, suppose you done the bill for 1000, but in your account you have only 500 rupees. Yeah, there we have to check whether the sufficient amount is there or not. right? And guys, in Gmail, first you have to give the username, right? For Gmail. So Gmail has to be checked whether that user ID is already there in the database or not. Yes, exactly. We use a double equal to operator. We use a double equal to operator. Then guys, we have to check the password. Again, we use a double equal to operator. If they are not equal, definitely we have to deliver a message, invalid username or invalid password. Like that, guys, we use this operator in real-time use cases. So I hope you clear, guys, the relational operator. I think so. Guys, you know, in Gmail, yeah, first of all, it will ask you only mail ID. First of all, it will ask you only mail ID. Suppose, let me take the scenario here, then you can easily understand. Let's take a mail ID is equal to, we can take the mail ID, let's take abc@gmail.com. And general scenario, we know, this is guys about the Gmail scenario that I'm discussing. Gmail scenario that I'm discussing, okay? So first we have to check whether this Gmail is already there or not in the DB. So you have to write the condition like this, guys. If mail ID is double equal to Gmail database, Gmail DB mail IDs. Actually, this Gmail ID, the Gmail ID mail ID is nothing but we have to take from the database, guys. Anyhow, I'm not writing the complete code. This Gmail database mail ID that we have to take from the database generally. But this is guys how to use a double equal to operator. Double equal to operator. Guys, if it is true only, then it will ask you the password. That is Gmail scenario. That is Gmail scenario. But guys, if you do the same thing for Facebook, you know, guys, in Facebook, it will not ask you the mail ID first. It will ask you the both. So it means you have to take a mail ID, like some, let's take mail ID is equal to, suppose if you give the mail ID, let's take Chanti@gmail password, gmail.com. This is, let's take a mail ID. And let's take password is equal to something like 1234. You know, guys, in the Gmail, we have to check only this condition. But now, you know, guys, in Facebook, yeah, definitely they have to check mail ID is equal to this or not, and password is equal to this or not. Both have to verify at a time. See, guys, we are comparing only the mail ID. And the second case, guys, we are verifying both at a time. So to check more than one condition. Next categorization operator, that is what, guys, the relational operators, I mean logical operators. The next operator categorization that we have to go, that is, guys, the logical operators. So guys, you can see how to use a logical operators, how to use a logical operator. So we have to check if mail ID is double is equal to the FB DB mail ID, logical, and this and is, guys, that operator, that is logical operator. And guys, the password that we have to check, if password is equal to that Facebook database password that we have to compare. It means, guys, you can see here we are comparing two conditions at a time with the logical operator. Guys, we have a logical operator 3. One is a logical and, next logical or, and logical not. Okay, so let me show you, guys. These are the logical operator. You can see logical and, logical or, and logical not. Guys, it seems to be the time gets closed, I think. So as per the target, like I haven't covered the rest of the things. Like actually, I'm supposed to explain you after operators, I have to go with the control statement. But yeah, I have covered, guys, up to the logical operators. Maybe in the next session, I'll try to cover the rest of the things. The next session, I'll try to cover the next things. Okay, guys, that's it for today. So do you have any queries? Yeah, I'll try to cover the rest of also. No
So
problem.
what about the worksheet?
Yeah, I'll send you now after completion of the session. I'll send you one worksheet. The one who already registered, guys, the one who registered, their mail ID already the admin team has already taken. So through that mail IDs, guys, so we'll send the worksheets to you. Okay.
Santi,
Yeah.
can you explain once again about this use of strings?
Time is over.
Can you repeat?
Use of string, when to use and how to use that one?
String you are asking, right?
Right.
Yeah, fine. So see, let me explain you a use case, then you can understand in a better way. See, generally what people will think here is, suppose if you take an Amazon website, if you directly go to the registration, or if you go to the login, or it's a kind of any login or registration operation, just 1 second. Yeah, let's take the registration. So people will think that they are passing here a integer value in the mobile number, right? But you know, not only the name and mail and pass, all everything, even the including phone number, everything sent to the Amazon server in a string format only. The all data will taken into the server side at string format only. And this strings only has to be compared with the database, whether this mobile number is already exist. So if the mobile number is already exist, that is a string comparison is done. So if the mobile number is already exist, you will get a message, the mobile number is already exist. So please register with a new mobile number. So this is the situation that where we have to take the string and the string manipulate function. Let me take you one more scenario. If you open a Gmail, it will ask you the mail ID, right? But
Right.
that if you give the mail ID, you may give in lowercase or you may give uppercase and you may give the combination also. But server side, it will convert it into the lowercase and will do the comparison. So you have to be strong at the strings to develop the server side coding. Are you clear?
Yes.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys, any questions? Yeah, feel free to ask.
Sir, can you explain about the purpose of Python learners and Python developers about the software versions?
Yeah, a good question actually. You know, why I categorize them into two modes. If you use either interactive mode or batch mode in the learner category, there are some errors that you can get it. There are some errors you will get while you are executing some basic program. You know, that errors that you have to resolve them manually there in learners mode. But same thing, same program, if you type in the batch mode, you know, before you compile the program itself, I mean, while you're writing the code itself, the error will be described to you. So if you directly go to the IDE mode, that is the flavor is going to be missing. I mean, troubleshooting the errors is going to be missing. So that's what you have to better practice few programs on the learner modes. Got it?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Fine.
So guys, tomorrow anyway, we are going to have a session during the daytime, and because today we are running out of time, we have another session after this one. So I will have to close this session, but tomorrow again, we are going to meet and we are going to, cover the remaining part, as well as, tomorrow we'll deep dive into functions, right? Thanks a lot, Chanti, for today's class. It was very, very wonderful class, and I hope everybody has enjoyed this. Right. So guys, keep your questions also for tomorrow. Tomorrow probably we can start our class with. So so PPT will not share, guys, but what we will do, we will share the recording of the session, right? So you can go through the session itself and learn from it. Please revise the whatever we have done today, before you come to. I will try to share this class videos link also as soon as possible within the next 2 or 3 hours, so that before you come tomorrow, you have some idea around it, right? Okay, great. Thank you, guys, and have a nice remaining day. Thanks again, Chanti.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience, guys. Okay, so tomorrow we'll discuss the rest of things. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.